So Friday morning comes around, the day that I've been dreading of the training, and I have to check out of my hotel after breakfast. So I have all of my luggage, probably about 26, 27 kilos of stuff. So I have a huge suitcase and various other bags. So I bring all of that down to the lobby, and one of the Chung Dahm call vans picks me and my luggage up and takes me to the Chung Dahm training center. So when I get there, all of my luggage is stored at the training center, while I attempt to complete the final day of training before catching a train to Daejeon in the evening. So the morning was moderately stressful. I had to complete the memorization test and the mock teaching observation for the intermediate English course, which was it was stressful, but I did a good job at it. I got through it, so I passed reasonably well, like both the memorization task and the teaching observation. So nothing much to report there about the morning session. I passed that, reasonably easily. So then it came time for me to complete the same procedure for the afternoon session. So this was the part of the day that I'd been dreading, and unfortunately, but not too surprisingly, things did not really go anywhere near as well as they had done for the morning session. So anyway, we start the class. It's just me and this one trainer, and I have to do the memorization test like I'd done earlier for the morning session. So I was given a blank schedule, or like timetable or schedule for the reading class that I was required to take, and I had to fill in the name of each different part of the lesson, give a description of what was to be done in each part of the lesson, and I also had to write how much time was to be spent on each section. So I had various tasks to complete within that memorization test. So unfortunately, having done the exact same test for a different type of course, a couple of hours earlier, I actually got some of these strange Chung Dahm terminology, all these strange terminology that they give all the different parts of the lesson. I got a few of them mixed up because I'd done the same thing for a different course earlier, and all the different sections were similar but had different names. So because of that, I got some of the names mixed up, and I didn't actually pass the memorization part of the test that afternoon. So um, anyway, that was my first annoyance for the afternoon session, because I failed that memorization test, and also my hostile trainer told me that I had to retake it again, and so we move on to the mock test, and this is where things get a little bit worse. I was not completely prepared because I'd been too busy packing up all of my stuff the night before in my hotel room. So I get out my folder, and I was under the impression that I needed to give a mock teaching observation. I can't remember exactly, but it was something, like X up until Y, and then my trainer tells me, no, you need to prepare pages A up until B, as well as pages, X up until Y. And then, he tells me that I'm supposed to have prepared all this, and then he asked me why I hadn't prepared it all, like in a very sort of condescending tone. So this was the point that I sort of momentarily snapped, because, up until then, I'd been very frustrated and angry with Chung Dahm and how they treated me and their bad organization and so on. But I'd been very reluctant to say anything because I did realize that they were my employer, and I really didn't want to piss them off. So up until this point, I really hadn't said anything. But it was just this time when he accused me of not being prepared that I just sort of snapped at him, and it sort of happened. It was unintentional, but it just sort of came out because all of this had been building up inside of me. And anyway, he says, you're supposed to have prepared this, and then I just sort of snap at him, and I say, when am I supposed to have prepared all this? There's no way I could have prepared all this. I had to move out of my my hotel room last night, and no one even told me that I had to do that until last night. It's ridiculous. So he sort of, he wasn't too sympathetic, and then he just said, all right, okay, so if you haven't if you haven't prepared it, you can prepare it now. I'll give you 10 minutes." And he left the room for 10 minutes, and he let me prepare it. Um, so we weren't really off to a great start for this final teaching mock that I had to complete. And 10 minutes really didn't make much of a difference when I had something like 50 pages or something to sort of go over. So 5 minutes, 10 minutes at the start really didn't make much of a difference, but I still tried to go over it as much as I could. And then he comes back into the room and we do the teaching mock. So anyway, I get up there and I teach my lesson. He pretends to be the student, and it really seemed to me that he was trying to he was asking quite difficult questions that it seemed like he was trying to find questions that I wouldn't know the answer to, and that might be what the training center wanted him to do. But anyway, that's what it seemed like he was doing. He was trying to trying to make me slip up somehow in my teaching by asking difficult questions, and questions that probably a Korean student would never ask. So as I said before, we didn't really get along to begin with, and then he's asking me this question, and it just sort of got very uncomfortable, this teaching mock. And so I finish my teaching mock, and then I sit down at the table with him, and then he says to me in quite a condescending tone, he said, "So training wasn't really your first priority this week, was it?" And, at this point I'm just about ready to punch him in the face. But I still managed to control my anger, and, I did realize that I couldn't really speak my mind, because this is my employer, and I don't really want to, I don't want to make a bad impression, and I didn't really feel that I had that card to play to sort of vent all my anger at him and at Chung Dahm in general. So anyway, he says to me, that training wasn't really your priority this week, was it? And then I just said, "Excuse me," and that was about the extent of my my response to him. And so he sort of sucks his teeth for a little while, and then he says, "Yeah, I'll just have to double check that to see if you passed or not." So he leaves the room, and he's gone for about 5 minutes, and 5 or 10 minutes, and I'm just sitting there really sort of frustrated, thinking, I don't know if I'm going to pass or not, because I think I've pissed him off a few times, and I wasn't too hopeful. So anyway, he comes back in about 10 minutes later, after the teaching mock, and he says, "Oh, you just failed that teaching mock. You've got an hour to prepare for it again, and then we'll do it again at like 6:30 or something." And at this point, I just again, I just had enough of Chung Dahm and all the bullshit that they pulled on me this entire week. And I just said to him, "You know what, to be completely honest, I would rather not do that teaching mock again at 6:30, so you can forget about it." And then he just says, "Okay," and then he left the room.